I don't even know. Shinzamon
Shimada,
also known as Koji Yakusho.
We'll just put a disclaimer at the start that says, hey, we're going to mispronounce everything. Even the American words.
I mean, I'd hope not, but...
Well, my English isn't so great, so my Japanese can't be any better.
I used to say it, Hideo Kojima, and then Abby promptly corrected me. Yes.
Hideo Kojima?
Yeah, I didn't.
What'd you say?
Hideo, or it's like Hideo. That's what I used to think.
Well, you also thought it was Bestetta, so...
Yeah, I did. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of Dudes Watch a Movie, where thank you to all of our Facebook voters, the 14 of you, who chose this month's theme of Japanuary. And thus being said, today was my first pick of the movie for the month, and it was 13 Assassins. It is a remake of a film that was made in 1963, loosely based on historical events. Obviously, if you watch it, you can totally see why. But other than that, I am Dead Sprocket, joined with
the notorious G.I.N.G.
And here we're going to talk about it. So I'll get started with the plot. I have written in, this is a remake of the 1963 film based on historical events by Shinzamon Shimada. So that's basically the guy's name in the film.
What do they call him? They call him Shinza?
He was something like that. He was the Shogun's justice, I think they called him that.
Yeah, good luck getting that out of me. That part was hard to follow. I don't know much about feudal Japanese hierarchy.
It's difficult to take notes on a film with subtitles and pay attention to what's going on.
Basically, Shinzaemon was the main protagonist, main character.
I want to say in the ranking system, he was like the Shogun's guy who led the armies.
It seemed like you had the Shogun, and then you had his council, and then it seemed like Shinzaemon was the leader of that area that would have been under their rule. Okay. So anyway, he would have been in charge of that area. It seemed like it's hard to decipher. We could have looked it up, but
it's feudal Japan. It's real convoluted and hardcore.
And I'm just happy we get to say feudal Japan because it sounds real cool.
It does. Anyway, that man leads a team of assassins in the 19th century Japan to eliminate the ruthless lord Naratsuga Matsudaira, who's wreaking havoc against his own people, hired secretly by a government official hoping to end Matsudaira's reign of terror. Shimada. I'm gonna butcher all of these. He recruits his best samurai in Japan and then sets a trap for the lord's large contingent of faithful bodyguards. I got through it struggling, but not by my own fault. Mostly my own fault.
I mean, hey, it's a tough language apparently for us.
Yeah, it's true.
Pretty much everything I know about Japanese naming comes from wrestling.
Fair.
Yeah. There is no one named Tetsuya Naito on there, so I mean, I got nothing. Or Shinsuke.
There's no Nakamura.
Asuka.
Anywho's, I suppose, since it's my movie, I feel like I've got my thoughts on it. We should start with your thoughts on it.
Okay. Right off the bat, lets you know it's going to be a real kind of brutal movie. Starts with some seppuku, little ritual suicide. From what I understand, if I followed right, he had embarrassed the Shogun, or he had embarrassed Naratsugu. Don't know which one, but he definitely gave himself the cuts. And then not long after that, you see the lady with no limbs, and it's just Naratsugu.
Just a lord. He's the
Lord.
That's what he's known as.
Lord.
My lord.
Murdered that guy after he raped his wife or whatever. So it's pretty brutal.
Yeah. That really set the tone for the film right away. I did put a note in here about how they did a really good job at doing that. Right out the bat, you already understand that everything sucks for these people.
Yep.
And this man is in no position to be here. No one really wants him there, but they can't really have any say because I think if I read correctly, it was the shogun's
brother.
I don't know if it's stepbrother or brother, but it's like super close family type relative.
Nepotism.
So really no one can be like, we hate you, because they'd probably meet a fate worse than what they would do to themselves.
Yeah, instead of killing people, he's a big fan of maiming them. Which led me to put politics. Politics never changes.
Oh, Fallout.
Yep. I also enjoyed a lot of stuff in the beginning. I was just having a hard time following the plot. And it's not just this movie. It's any movie with subtitles, because it's like I'm trying to look at the faces so that I can remember who's who, and also read the story. And it usually takes me a while to actually figure out what the fuck's going on. But I did enjoy that they're getting everything ready for the Lord to come over, and they're like, "Yes, I will prepare the picture scrolls." It's a height of entertainment at the time. And then that's when you see Chai's. She is one of the reasons that this whole thing was set off. She's the one that had no eyebrows and either no teeth or black teeth, and she turns and her face is all white. That was very disturbing to me. I just didn't see that coming. Wasn't ready for it.
That being said, though, trying to figure out who is who, it doesn't help that everybody dressed in relatively the same garb. Everybody has the same haircut, which, by the way, is the weirdest hairstyle, I believe.
I meant to look into the reasoning behind that haircut, because not all of them have it, but a good majority do.
I didn't know if that was specifically a samurai thing or not.
Like, as you get higher up, you do the cut, maybe? I don't know. Because I noticed Shinza's nephew did not have it. He had the full hair. And then the Ronin that he recruited, that he had previously trained, also had a full head of hair. So I didn't know if it's like a sign of your level system. Or like you go Super Saiyan, you grow hair and it turns yellow. You go higher up through the samurai ranking and they just shave it off in a weird pattern. I don't know.
Could be. I've watched enough MXC that I think they mock it, and it's like there's got to be a reason for it.
I don't know.
But if you guys know, please let us know in the comments below.
Also, Lord Naritsugu is the brother of the Shogun. I have it in the notes there, apparently. Okay. So he is the brother.
Okay. Fair enough. Anything else?
Just other things in general about foreign movies, which we'll probably talk about again at some point. I always feel like the language barrier kind of works in its favor. So in an English-speaking movie, you can have someone who's acting in like they're pulling the right face, but the way they said the line just doesn't sound right. I have no idea in the dialect of whatever language is being spoken in a movie that's not English, whether or not they're delivering it well. So I think it always works in their favor. At that point, the story makes kind of more of an impact, as what they're saying is more important to me rather than how they're inflecting it. And then obviously their face to back it up to kind of convey the emotion that they're supposed to be showing.
Is that why you want to watch it without subtitles?
No, that was just going to be a fun exercise. I like to do that. But I've noticed a lot of times when I watch, especially Asian movies with no subtitles, I've got no idea what the fuck's going on, but I like it a lot. And you can kind of piece together some of the relations and where the conflict's at, and you don't know what the issue is, but you know when there is an issue.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I've always kind of liked that. And most of the foreign movies I watch are Asian movies. There's a couple that'll be like Latino movies, or maybe even some Scandinavian movies, but the majority of the ones I watch are Asian.
That Korean one I watched blew my mind. Bluebeard. Yeah. Ooh, check it out. It's great. But yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Just the delivery of the lines itself. I mean, for me though, for this film, everybody kind of had the same tone, except when it was hush hush. But I don't know. It's just because I'm not cultured enough yet in watching enough foreign films to kind of pick up on those cues. But yeah, according to my notes here, if we're going in the order that I have them written, I started with that whole ritual suicide. The limbless daughter, which was the biggest, needless to say, a really big shock for me.
Yeah, that was one of the moments that really, not gonna forget seeing that.
At first the seppuku happened, and I was like, oh, okay, so they're not showing the disembowelment. Okay, so it's kind of implied, and then they just go straight to that, and it's like everything. You see everything, and so it doesn't shock you on the gore factor for the movie. It's more of the, I I won't say realism, but like
kind of
subtle creepiness, disturbingness. But
yeah,
gore factor.
they do a good job of towing that line between what they will and won't show you. So they kind of set you up with the intro seppuku scene where you're thinking, okay, it's gonna be not a pleasant watch, but it's not gonna be over the top showing you everything. But then not 5 minutes later, they're showing you someone moving around with no limbs.
Yeah,
and then they go back to showing kind of like a somewhat off-screen murder. And they come into that room where he's already shot the arrows through the family. But then they also show him just straight up putting the sword through somebody. So they're very good at not letting you know whether or not they're going to show it. So it kind of builds that kind of tension or suspense.
I don't want to say uncanny valley because I think that's something else entirely.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, moving on from that, I noticed throughout the whole thing they keep kind of talking about how the samurai don't use their swords anymore. Like the pawn guy, he said that he's got so many in shop, and it kind of made me wonder if I don't say the time for sword battling is over, and it's kind of in the peak of maybe firearms because there was that team that was coming, but maybe samurai weren't needed anymore. Or?
That's what it was. They were basically in a period of peace, and it's something that Lord talks about at the very end. During the final thing where he wants to bring back the time of war. It sounds like they've had centuries of peace between them, and that's why the samurai don't need their sword. They're just they have them for ceremonial reasons more than anything else.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. I did notice there was a couple of montages in the video, which I thought was really great. They had a nice training little montage. It was a little underwhelming, but it was still good. All of them kind of getting ready for how they're going to use the explosives, and when they're kind of, I want to say setting up the town, but like just that explosives part, and then putting together all of the big giant gates and stuff. I thought was kind of cool.
It's nice. So it's similar in music. Kind of the language of film is universal. So you'll see a lot of those techniques that you'll find in any other, I guess not medium of film, but any other origin from any other country. So you'll see the same techniques. They'll put things off axis and it'll make you think something's up. They'll kind of follow a character, but then have them get too far ahead of the camera to make you think he's going to run into something around the corner. And they use the same idea of foreshadowing. So it doesn't matter where it's from. It helps make it all universal. So even if you are having a hard time following the plot, you have the proper feelings going on. And I do like that they did the callback with the during one of the montages they were training, just saying fuck the sword and smashing someone's face with a rock. And towards the scene at the end, they get into that situation where he has to smash someone's face with a rock.
If you don't have a sword, use a stick. If you don't have a stick, use a stone. There's something about that trivia. Supposedly that line is seen somewhere else. But also, I don't know, when you were talking about maybe not the off-kilter thing, the shots, something about the way how it was filmed made me feel like it was almost in the style of like all the older Japanese films, just like the angles and all sort of like how the camera was set. It looked like it was old, but I mean it was a 2010 film.
I wasn't paying too much attention to it, but my guess would be part of that might be I guess we could watch it again and see if this is true or not, but I think they might have used more stationary cameras. So instead of having handheld cams, I don't remember there being a whole lot of like movement scenes and following people while they walk and talk. There was a lot of people sitting around. A lot of static shots. Camera shots until the battle, obviously. Then it looks more like an up-to-date movie with a lot of movements and cuts.
I guess one scene in particular I'm thinking of is there was they were all sitting down, and it was almost like it was behind a wall looking over like a barrier, just kind of sitting and watching the whole thing happen, where it kind of makes you feel like you're watching what's happening, you're not part of it. So,
which would also make sense because it's if you're making a movie that's taking place so much farther back in the timeline, and I guess it would be harder to make you feel like you're a part of that, and easier to be like, it's almost like you're getting the visual version of if your uncle sat down and told you what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through here I have all of my notes. Tension building, very well done in this film. Clearly, if you watch it, you'll pick up on it right away. I did like the brilliant the plan on how they set it all up. The fact that they had to buy out a town make him go their specific route.
And when they show that guy all the money they're willing to pay him, he falls on his ass. Oh shit!
You ever seen so much money just fall on your ass?
And that guy's like, "Is it not enough?" And he's like, "Oh, whoa." There's a lot of small moments of comedy like that too that I think help a lot to kind of make it so it's not such a slog to get through all the very seriousness of everything else.
When they're in the woods.
Yeah. Okay, so that guy, their guide, who I wanted to call Gollum, because that's who he was acting as.
Oh, the wild man?
Yeah. That guy was not a fan of him.
Yeah, I noticed as soon as you saw him get
I said,
sword to the throat.
So they find him in the jungle, and he ends up being their guide because they got lost, and he has a real weird flashback to the girl that he loves that he got kicked out of the army for, which we later looked up and found out do you have the name of what demon he's supposed to be?
No, I just had it in there that he was known to be a demon. So apparently in one of the uncut versions of the film, I don't know if it was a flashback or something, but it has to do with some guy of importance offering him the whole town's women, and he ends up essentially having sex with them until most of them are all passing out. And it said something about him showing his junk to the other guy, and the other guy was just like, oh my god, because apparently it's so big, and somehow that's supposed to key in that he's a demon and that he's able to do that to all the women. That was one of the things that's supposed to key you in. The fact that his wife is actually sitting by some river or whatever, eating her own fetus.
Which that's still in the movie. That was real
yeah,
weird.
That was my comment to you. Was she eating sushi? Because it was raw and it was red. I thought it was fish.
She was in the water.
No, most certainly not. It was a fetus. That being said, also the part, I don't know, spoiler, but at the end, clearly when the dude comes back, which really threw you for a loop.
Yeah.
That's when it looked kind of into it. Apparently,
that's when I started thinking, is he like a demon or what's it?
If those scenes would have been in there earlier, that would have cued those who kind of know about different, I don't say cultural references, but like demonology type stuff. Then they'd be like, oh hey, yeah, that's
still would have went straight over our head.
100%.
But there were some things throughout the movie that was making me think it too, though. Just like, so I get that he had been living in the woods for a while, but his face always looked really dark, almost blackened. And it kind of, his facial structure kind of reminded me of like the masks the samurai would wear that are supposed to be real ugly and repulsive and be like demonic masks. And I couldn't figure out what was up with his weird ear.
His ear. It looked like it was like a burn or something.
So he gets to kick a whole lot of ass, but it was kind of taking me out of the big fight at the end because he kept like cracking jokes and getting mad at the samurai for not showing him enough respect. And then Lord just chucks his small short sword through his throat, and I almost got out of my seat and cheered. Like, that's how much I didn't like that character.
It was a proud moment for you.
And then after everything's all settled and done, he comes running up to the last guy and is like, "What the fuck? No, stop it."
I was like, I don't think anybody can survive a sword through the throat.
Not only that, he got cut in the stomach
too,
too,
didn't
he?
missed. I was just, yeah.
I can't remember what his name was, but he was the nephew of Shinza, and he's like, "Are you immortal?" And I was like, apparently.
Clearly.
I think the rest of the comedy in the movie worked fine for me,
though,
just not him. And it was because it was a lot of it during the battle. I didn't need those moments during that part because I think it kind of dropped some of the intensity.
Really taking it away. I also noticed there was candles in almost every single shot, and I didn't know if that was to add authenticity. Anytime they were in like the town inside, everywhere there was a fire going or there was a candle going, and I don't know if that was for authenticity or if they're adding for like if they wanted to get a more natural lighting, or if they actually used maybe studio lighting. If they did,
it was probably just so when you're indoors and you're lighting something, a lot of times you want to put something in the shot to imply that's what the light's coming from. More than likely, they used just regular lighting to film it. As far as I know, there's only one movie that was ever really filmed with only candlelight, and it was it was that Stanley Kubrick movie
where they're at a dance or something,
like Barry Lyndon or something like that, and it takes place in like 14th century France or something like that. They were able to do it with nothing but candlelight, but it would take so many candles to light those.
It makes sense, especially for all the light for the cameras to take in and whatnot. What was I going to say also? There was something about... Go ahead if you got anything else. I need to find this.
I have so many notes about Lord Naratsugu. That he's a maniac, he's insane, he's a power drunk prick. Because he just... There's no emotion to his face. He just does all these horrible things and shows no hesitation because he knows nothing can happen to him. As far as he thinks, he's untouchable by anything because he's the brother of the Shogun.
And boy, does that crumble down at the end.
Oh, so much, and it was so satisfying.
It was so satisfying.
He's really good.
At being a dick.
Yeah, another thing that I've noticed from foreign movies is they're really good about making you fucking hate their bad guy. Like every now and then, especially in an anime, there'll be a bad guy that it's like, oh man, he's kind of right though. Like Psycho-Pass. I can't remember the name of the bad guy in there, but he's got a lot of
the white-haired dude.
Yeah, he's got a lot of like. It makes sense, his ideal behind why he's trying to take down what's happening with the government. But then there's other ones where it's just, that dude is a real fucking prick. And this is one of those movies. I think that's something that I don't think American movies do well enough. Especially with how big like Marvel movies are. Villains in those movies are just really throwaway. There's been a couple that have been really good. But for the most part, they're all just kind of really forgettable. Like even the big ones like Ultron was really nothing.
Well, because I think they don't do a very good job at showing him basically being a dick. Like, he's evil. Okay, well, go on. Like, show me why.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like that happens a lot in a lot of these other films for the better villains. Like, you see this Lord guy kill kids, kill families, lead people, like, rape this dude's wife and then kill him, and like it's just that setup.
I feel like American movies get too caught up in trying to explain a villain's plan, whereas foreign movies are very good of just showing you why you shouldn't like this person. So they try and make the villain seem more important and grandiose by like, this is my plan and I'm gonna do it, and they do all that monologuing and they explain everything that's happening, whereas this just shows you a piece of shit and makes you think, I want to see that guy get killed. He just murdered that kid, murdered that lady. He's being a dick to these people just because he doesn't like the way that they're scratching the floor. Like, that's how you do it.
He treats servants like without that line where he's like, but you're letting these servants do too much. And one thing I also put in here, a little side note. Judging by the way they were crossing through the woods, I felt like these samurai don't get out much. I feel like a lot of them just kind of stuck to hometown because navigating the woods, they got lost. There was the leeches. Terrified of insects. Clearly doesn't seem like they could survive out in the woods. So, I don't know. Maybe that whole being a time of peace, you have no reason to go out and about. So
you also have to think that, and I guess I don't know if I should say this or not because I probably wouldn't know, but I don't think the samurai were practitioners of guerrilla warfare. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of formation and things like that where they would meet on the battlefield versus later on when people are used to fighting guerrilla style, going through the jungle and things like that. Because I know at least for European stuff, it was a lot of, well, these are the roads that'll take us here and there, so let's march as a unit. So it could be that they were used to being more like the other group that they were going up against, who go in formation and follow the standard roads.
That would make sense, I suppose. I will admit one thing I didn't realize is how dedicated to honor and loyalty that they were. Granted, these 13 were clearly acting on their own morality, believing that this wasn't right and that needs to change, but like everybody else, even though all these heinous acts are happening, they're still like, well, you are my leader, I have to do what you say no matter what. And I want to say the Lord guy, he plays on that even. He's like, you're supposed to be samurai, you're supposed to be honorable, you know, you're supposed to follow me no matter what I say. And clearly, you know, morals are, to these folks, more important, obviously, and they don't want to go to another age of war, which makes sense.
Yeah, and that's something that Hanbei, who is kind of Lord's main, I wouldn't say henchman,
bodyguard.
But yeah. He even has a line on there where right before him and Shinza have their duel, where he says it's our job is to serve and die, and it's even to the point where he knows that Narusugu is insane, and he even admits it right in front of him, but he says it doesn't matter, that it's not his place to decide. And I have a very similar note where feudal Japan has a lot of strange rules of power and honor. So when they pay the town to stop the passage, which honestly I don't know how much they really would have had to pay, because Lord had killed that man's son like the year before, 2 years before, something like that. They stopped them from crossing that bridge, which then means that he has now gone against someone who is higher up than him, so he had to kill himself on the bridge, but all the people were fine because it's their duty to follow his word, and he's the one who broke his duty. So it was a weird,
he paid the debt per se.
Yeah, it was really strange how that works out. I also have in here that I really appreciate the lack of shing sound effects every time they draw their sword.
I will admit one thing I did notice. When they were in the fight, and when things started to become like against the assassin itself, a lot of clashing of swords was happening, a lot of defense was happening. But you could tell when the hits were hitting because there wasn't sword clangs anymore. Even though the camera wasn't on there, you could tell when he was hitting bodies versus hitting swords, and it kind of gave you when it was the two samurais, you could hear them hitting bodies, but as soon as there was only one, all you heard was swords clanging, and it kind of amplified the, I don't want to say peril, but basically, being in peril. Like, this guy, he's about to get screwed over, he's gonna get fucked, but
it's letting you know that he's gone from the offensive to the defensive. Because I don't know if the people they're attacking block a single blow, but they block tons. They instantly become just bodies to cut down, which is really fun to watch, because it's some of those actors that they got to play the 13 Samurai, some of them were very fast and very, very quick with their motions. So it looked really impressive when they would just cut like 3 people down in 2 seconds.
A lot of choreography.
Oh yeah. And honestly, this movie is along the same lines as what makes me like a lot of other movies from overseas, where it starts off, it usually goes one of 2 ways. Usually it seems to start off with something that's just really tension grabbing in like the first 5 minutes, and it's like, oh fuck, well I gotta see where this goes. Or they forgo that, and then it goes immediately into like the long drawn out part for, it seems, about like the first half of the movie, and then some switch will flip, and then it just goes bananas after that. So a lot of those horror movies I watch are very similar to that, where once something happens, it's on for the last like half hour to 45 minutes. This movie seemed to do that. They had the beginning part where it wasn't a bunch of like insane action, but it was a bunch of really off-putting stuff and really kind of twisted stuff happening to pull you in. And then it got down to the politics and gathering up the assassins. Shinzo was conflicted as to whether or not he should go against Lord or not, whether it breaks his duty, whether it's worth breaking his duty. But then once they get into the town and everything's set up, they flip the switch and it just goes fucking ape shit.
Got real. Yeah, as soon as those gates closed on that whole thing, boom, that's when everything just started.
I don't think there's one small fight before that where they leave the first meeting at night, and those other people from Hanbei's,
those other Ronins that they encountered.
So they weren't Ronins, they were from Hanbei's clan.
I thought that they said at some point they paid those Ronins to
it's either that or they. No, okay, so that, I forgot about that one actually. I'm talking about in the town after the very first meeting at night, those 4 people surround the one guy from Shinza's clan.
Oh, right.
And then the apprentice comes in, tells him he's Ronin, and it cuts all 4 of them down. I forgot they had that other small one before they got to... those were Ronin that they paid to try and stop him.
Which I didn't understand why until I remembered that the one guy was talking about how the luck is against them because the one guy he was trying to fight he doesn't give up. Like, even if he's not the greatest, he still has the wherewithal to keep pushing, even if he's backed in a corner. And so no matter what, like, since he knows that, he's trying to think steps ahead while they're already steps ahead.
Yep.
And I was just like, ooh, that mind game.
There's a lot of strategy going into the kind of the foreplay, basically. And then the shit gets real when they close those gates, and that's when it instantly becomes quote city for me. There's so many cool fucking things. We commemorate your passage with arrows.
That's amazing.
I put like 3 or 4 things in a row that were my favorite scene because I was like, that's got to be my favorite scene. And then after that, he holds up that sign that the crippled or the mutilated lady had painted with her mouth earlier that says "Total Massacre," and he says "Kill them all." And it's like, that's my favorite scene. It just kept going too. It was awesome.
I loved it all up until those bulls came out, and I was like, ugh.
You have a note about that too? The bad CGI bulls?
That was a bit cringy. I mean, yeah, I understand why you can't use real bulls, but maybe the whole scene itself could have been done without. Like, maybe just throw some barrels out there that
or
were
just
on
bulls
fire.
that aren't on fire.
Yeah, but
that I noticed that too. That was just could have done without the CGI
blood
bulls.
explosion.
Yeah.
I turned my head away for a second because I was like, oh, like I didn't know what he had and then I looked back at the screen and all I see is this huge tidal wave of blood go up and over a building, which I was like, did a water tower burst or something?
And that's kind of an interesting thing to examine too. So you get bulls on fire CGI. Both of us don't like that because it's ridiculous and it doesn't look good. But when he did the grenade and just the giant wave of blood comes over, I'm like, that's fucking awesome. Because it was metal as fuck. So there's ridiculous things that can happen that'll be good, but you have to make it look good.
I'm just glad there wasn't a lot of that.
Yeah, they picked and chose their moments for sure.
Yeah.
For the most part, it was pretty down to earth. There was a lot of blood by the end, which he says this town will be a bloodbath. So every time when they first get there, there's like creeks running through it and they're fine, but by the end of it, they're all drenched red and they're standing in dirt that's just caked with blood.
Yep. That's the one thing too that when I mean like they're not big on the gore factor. Granted, there is blood everywhere, but every time someone's getting cut up or sliced up, it's not like slice up blood spray everywhere.
Yeah, it's not Kill Bill.
It's just like you got sliced, you're down. Maybe aside from the one time the younger kid like digs the sword in the dude's shoulder, maybe a little bit, but still it's there to amplify the fact that kids never killed anyone.
Yep.
So
yep.
Do everything right.
I like and dislike how well they did. So they initially trapped them. And they rain down arrows on them for a while, and then they've got some traps laid throughout, like a house is rigged to explode.
It's just brilliant.
They've got the bulls that are on fire, but then at one point they run out of that, and that's when he holds up the Total Massacre, kill them all, and then they just jump down into them. And that's at what point the odds kind of are getting a little hard to suspend the disbelief on. And they kind of make up for that after they start dropping one by one until you get down to Shinza and his nephew, and then the demon, but he gets ganked not shortly thereafter. But at that point they've killed, let's see, there's 130 that came in, and there's down to
that was 130 after they did all the arrows. So it was like 200 people, and they killed off like 70 people with arrows, and then it was 130 to battle sword to sword.
And then on the final standoff, there's about 5 of them left, including Lord. So, I mean, I'm not too good with math, but that's an insane KD ratio.
Goddamn. I wanted to put some sort of score streak up on there, but
I know.
I've lost count.
Yeah. And they do a pretty good job of kind of showing the harsh reality of the other samurai not making it and then watching their friends get cut down,
perish. Yeah,
but they're still pretty like noble in their death. Like, we've got to finish the mission. They see someone get cut down, they run over there and they try and do what they can to save that person from getting cut down. So like the code of honor samurai are supposedly known for, even though sometimes it sounds like they were real pieces of shit. It's nice to see that kind of stuff. It makes you like those characters more. Since we can't really get too invested in them in a single sitting, because it's hard for us to differentiate when they're wearing all the same clothes and we're not used to names and things like that. it helps make that group seem more likable.
Yeah, like a tight little squad.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of Lord of the Rings. First time you watch it, there's so many people, and a lot of them, like the hobbits, all kind of look the same, dress very similar. Names are all strange. They're not Bob, Joe, Steve, and Kyle. So it's more of what their deeds do to make them likable than their personalities and things like that from the first go.
100%. I would agree. What else we got here? I guess if we want to start talking about the ending there part, the part where the Lord dude gets stabbed. I thought that was a real badass moment, though. He comes up to him and he talks about how as decorated his sword is, all prepared to die right then and there because he knew he was going to kill him anyway. And then he immediately stabs him, and then he's just like, it's just a decoration. And he pulls himself closer and then stabs the Lord guy. And I was just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you got to think too, in Shin's mind, he's going to die anyways. Because even if he succeeds, he has to kill himself. Yeah. Just, because of
what he did, And I was just like, that was so badass. And then suddenly the dude collapses to the ground and talks about being in pain, how it hurts, and he doesn't want to die, and that he's scared. And I was just like, ew.
He's crying and crawling through the mud.
Broke a man with a stab to the side.
Pain? Is this pain? I don't want to die. I'm scared.
He crawls to a toilet of all spots.
Yep.
Just to be beheaded and have his head roll into a toilet.
It's real fitting because he was a piece of shit.
Right. Speaking of beheading, that part where the one guy, the first dude who got his head lopped off, and then he kicks the head.
Oh yeah, another. He got one last piece of shit in there.
Yep.
It's Hanbei.
It's one thing to cut off a head, and then there it is to disrespect the body that you have just,
That man literally just sacrificed his life to protect your honor, and he just doesn't even take a second to think about it. Just kicks it.
It's like, you can kick my head around if you want.
God, he should have.
Right. Well, he kicked into a toilet, basically.
Yeah, but when it cut, it rolled into it. He should have gave it a real big soccer kick up against the wall.
Big old punt. Yeah. Overall, I really enjoyed that movie. Yeah. I was not expecting it.
Yeah, it was very good.
So, thank you, Google.
Yep. It rates fairly highly, too. I think it was like a 7.4, something like that on IMDb. And it's definitely... It's something that I wish more people would kind of give more of a chance to, is a lot of those more foreign movies. It's hard to get through the first like 5-10 minutes because it's like we said earlier, it's kind of disorienting. You don't know who's who and what's going on, and you're reading subtitles, and it's real easy to just say, fuck this, I'm gonna put on something else that's easier to follow. But it's way more rewarding getting to see a different nation's take on filmmaking, and especially with horror movies, and somewhat in this one, it seems fresh. Yeah, like it's not something you've seen a million times. It's not the cliches don't seem like they're there as often, and you don't know where the twists are coming, and I enjoy it a lot.
I think that's what I picked up from when I had my film class back in college. Like, I grew an appreciation for foreign films, especially when we saw Lahane. It was so to me, that was like a mind blowing of a film. Like, typically I'm not into black and white films. I'm not into foreign films. I hate reading subtitles, but I mean, give it a shot, and it was amazing. Yeah. Like, I've never seen a film that was done in that way. Same goes with this film. Like, yeah, it's a little annoying and like overwhelming to start reading subtitles, but if you, I don't know, still kind of, you're still reading it, but you're still comprehending on what's going on. It's still a really good film. And then, like you said, they don't have the typical tropes. It's like, it's another country's film, so they don't do the same thing that a lot of U.S. films do. And then, like, well, they have to have this scene, they have to have this scene. No, they have their own, I don't say story arc, but, kind of plot line of how they want to do it. And it's refreshing.
Yep. And there's enough in there to be familiar. Like, you still get your standard like story components, like the protagonist and antagonist are easy to figure out, and then you've got like, they seem to have like the kind of comedic relief character and things like that, but it's just not near as tropey, and you're not seeing the same like, I don't know exactly how to put it, but like, there's not a character that I can be like, oh yeah, I've seen that character in all these other movies, like the way that person dresses, the way that person acts. It's very different.
I agree.
It's more effort, but I think more rewarding.
Absolutely.
And then I guess it's just good. Like, good movies are good movies no matter where it's from, what language it's in, whether it's black and white or color, what genre it is. If they tell the story well and everyone does their part well, it'll reward for at least giving it a shot. That's pretty much all I have.
Same. Time to go into our spots.
Yeah, our what the fuck moments.
Go ahead.
So I have one written down that's seeing Chice, but I think I'm gonna change it because while I was looking through IMDb and on Wikipedia trying to see if I had seen any of these actors in anything else or just learned some stuff about it, that movie takes place in 1845.
Yeah.
That's 4 years before the California Gold Rush. So I don't remember if it said that at the very beginning, but it's really weird to put into perspective time-wise that feudal Japan was going on while the Wild West was happening. So So when he's like, I might go to America, I was like, wait, what? Huh?
Right. And get a bunch of women.
Yeah. Like, that's insane to me that they're over there doing things that you would think
so much more primitive.
Yeah, you would think it's like the 1300s and the way everyone's dressing and the way that samurai are even still around. But I mean, it makes sense because they had peace for all those centuries. But that was a what the fuck moment for me.
I would like to know what part of the loosely historic events it was based upon. Because, I mean, granted, yeah, it's probably not that elaborate, but still.
And you know how they kept mentioning that basically they had to go to, I think it was Edo is where they were all going, and that's where they were trapping them, and they had to go back there every so often, every so many years. Yeah. Edo is Tokyo. Yeah, found that out.
Yeah, I didn't. I suppose my what the fuck moment is the chick eating her own fetus. After I found out that that's what it was, holy crap, it gave a whole new kind of It literally, though, when I first saw it, I almost said that because I didn't quite know the context of what was going on because, like I said, it was filling in my notes. But just immediately to look up at the screen and see this woman doing whatever she was doing threw me for a what the fuck.
Yeah.
So
there were quite a few that I had to kind of look through in that movie. Explosion of Blood was kind of one of them. Demon guy coming back at the end. Seeing the limbless person. A lot of them.
Quite a few. Hard to pick.
My favorite scene was Shinzaemon versus Hanbei. I was waiting for that. Honestly, first of all, I was waiting for Shinzaemon versus Lord, because I was like, this dude's gonna kill that man. But then after they had their talk out in front of Shinza's dojo, talking about how Hanbei was always jealous because he hadn't advanced as far as Shinza was. At that point, I knew those two were going to clash, and I was so excited for it. And they had their talk beforehand, where they were like basically having a debate as to how Shinza's right and Hanbei's wrong. But Hanbei doesn't care, saying that Shinza's wrong because he's not following what he's supposed to do. And both sides are right, and you could tell that they both really respect each other, but they couldn't fucking wait to kill the other one. And then they go in, and at that point, all the music had been really like loud and action-packed during the entire ambush. But when those two fought, there was no music. It was just that dude versus that dude, and he fucking cut him down. And it was amazing.
Agreed. Speaking of cut down, I completely forgot. I guess another one of the fuck moment for me was when the dude got cut in half. That one scene, I forgot.
He was on fire?
It was so subtle, yeah. It's just done. I don't think that's possible.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but samurai swords can just cut the barrel off of a fucking Abrams gun. You know, they're the sharpest things in the world. Samurai sword. You cut that post down in one slice.
All right. It's probably a cold steel sword too. Favorite scene for me was just the whole battle scene. That whole plan falling into place. All of their planning, all of the actions they set up. I liked the subtle bits in the roof, the arrows that stuck in the spot where they were going to stand, and then just all of it coming into place, and how that one guy had all those swords just posted up.
Yeah.
That one with the fight scene, man, he just pulling them left and right, and just, oh man, so good. Mm-hmm. Top 5.
I had another late change for my MVP. Originally, it was Shinza, because I thought throughout the movie he was the one, like acting wise, seemed to be the one that I kind of gravitated towards. He seemed very stoic, and plot wise, I liked what he was doing with. Where he was conflicted about. He knew he was doing technically wrong, but also 100% right, and he had to do it. And then his monologues on top of the thing before the ambush and before the fight. But then the more and more I think about it, I keep thinking of Naritsugu, and how that guy was a fucking psychopath. And I don't know if I would have enjoyed that movie as much if I didn't hate that man so much. So I had to give it to him for the MVP. Like that dude was top 10 psychopaths in a movie I've ever seen.
Fair enough. I can't remember the guy's name. Slap on the wrist for me on that one. My MVP was the guy who kept laughing all the time. The old man who ran out of fucks to give. Yep. He was just there because he could. He wanted to get paid to get his family buried properly and for his own burial properly. But that was it. He could give a shit less. He was just like, I'm here with my spear. Let's do this.
The one that he seemed to be like an old friend of Shinza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And every time something was happening, it was quiet, and then suddenly he just started cackling. Like, okay. So yeah.
Where would you say this movie ranks so far out of our 14 episodes?
I'd say, being as it's a movie I haven't seen, and a movie I never necessarily heard of. I think I've heard of it, but I never actually gave it any thought to watch it, and I don't think I ever would have. But I would rank it up there with one of the top 3. Because being a foreign film, I have a newfound respect for while watching them. I give them a credit, and then this easily rewarded me for giving the effort to watch it. So, yeah.
And as I say, I'm struggling to think of one that I enjoyed watching more. And kind of like you said, I mean, having seen the other movies, it was more of a, oh yeah, I remember this, I like that. But out of the new ones, I would say it was probably this or The Thing so far as top ones.
Maybe we should start watching movies we haven't seen.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully we get this out on time. If not, I mean, hey, we put the effort in. So, well, by we, I mean our editor. That being said, thanks for watching. Any sort of discussion you'd like to have, please let us know. I'm trying to be more active on this Facebook page. If you have any ideas, throw them out there. I'll respond. I'm basically the only guy monitoring at this point.
Yeah, I don't have Facebook.
That's fine. But anyway, yeah, drop a like. If you really do enjoy it, share it with your friends. Open them up to foreign films. It's a good outlet. I mean, even as closed-minded people, just sit them down, let them watch it. They might enjoy. So that being said, I am Dead Sprocket.
I'm the Notorious GNG.
Have a good one.
See ya.